Welcome to the Own Your Life podcast, where our goal is to help bring hope, healing, and peace by sharing our experiences and inspiring you to own your life. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own Your Life podcast. So happy belated Valentine's Day to all of you out there. We are actually recording this on Valentine's Day, and Matt and I did get to celebrate last night. We went to a nice dinner and had a really good time. And I think it's just really important to do that, not only on Valentine's Day, which is a super Hallmark holiday. I'm sure you all know that. But I think it's important for us to do things like that with our significant others multiple times a year. And that's something that Matt and I have made a priority, that we do go out to a nice dinner, pretty frequently throughout the year to make sure that we get that time together, undivided, which is great because I feel like, we can get distracted at home, or if we're on the go or doing something quickly, that it doesn't, it's not as intimate as that. And I know we just live with one dog right now, but still it can be a little distracting. So it's nice to get out and to have, that time together. So anyways, I hope you all had a great holiday and are doing well, and happy President's Day as well from Monday, because this is coming out Wednesday. And we're going to talk today about active listening and really the importance of that in our lives. I feel like a lot of us need to work on that area. I know Matt and I have worked on that a lot and still are, because communication is one of the keys to our lives. If we can't communicate properly with each other and other people, that it's going to be very difficult to really do anything. Communication is kind of the glue that holds all of that together.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that there are so many different things within communication that have been very vital with all of everything we do every single day. And, the biggest communication problem is we don't listen to understand, we listen to reply. I know that there are a few people that I deal with, actually, I should say I used to deal with a lot. And some of them, it was funny because, I would go into a meeting with them and they would just talk and 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 talk. And I would just sit there and listen to everything they had to say. And, at the end of it, they were so just excited that I was there. And they were like, you know what? I just really like it when you come, you just really help me in so many different ways. And I don't remember saying anything in some of these meetings at all. And it was like, it was just that they were just like, yeah, you're just amazing. I'm like thinking to myself, I was like, I don't even know what I'm not doing anything. I'm just affirming you and just, just saying, certain things along the way in the conversation. And I really I didn't reply to anything they said. I literally just sat there and listened. But sometimes that's the most connection that people have, because people are literally trying to talk over other people and trying to feel important, when that's not necessarily what people need. People don't need to be talked over. Some people just want to get something out. And sometimes when you're that person that just lets them talk and you just affirm them and understand, that's the best thing you can possibly do. And that's the most connection people will have. And they actually will respond to you better, and they will actually listen to what you have to say long term in that relationship. But a lot of times people haven't built enough of a relationship with people to really have that input or have that understanding. And I know that is people's strengths. Ashley does have the strength of input. So, I always want to try and affirm her in certain things, especially when that's her natural strength. Now, however, we do have the relationship where she'll be able to understand when it's important for me to talk too, though. She knows when it's not time to input, because she knows when it's something that if I get fired up and I'm passionate about something, she knows that she just needs to let me talk. And there's no input necessary in that aspect of it. But when there is input and I need it and I'm asking for it, she knows that that's her time to shine, if you will, with her natural gifting. And I do think that there is a give and take with that. And there is one quote from Crucial Conversations that I think that it is important, is listening is an art that requires attention over talent. spirit over ego, others over self. And I think that when you can take the ego out of it, and it requires your attention over your talent, which is very difficult at times because, like I said, Ashley's talent is input. So that is difficult for her. It's attention over talent. And we have to let our ego take a back seat sometimes and know that it's not the time to input whatever we want to input, because sometimes it's not the right time. And other times it is your time to have that input and have that strength and have that, ego that you need to have sometimes, because you do need to have ego sometimes. And I know that's not necessarily what people want to hear. And I think the biggest one is others over self, because sometimes it's about somebody else. It's not about you. Even in conversations and communication, understand that sometimes people are operating out of that negative emotion, negative thing of whatever they're going through. Sometimes it's not about you, and that's tough to understand, but it is true that it's not about you all the time, and it's about them, and it's about whatever they're going through. And sometimes just sitting there listening and affirming somebody is the best thing you could possibly do. And just letting them know that they felt heard and understood is the best thing you can do for anybody. Because I think in this day and age of what everything is going on, most people just don't feel heard and understood.
For the record, I do feel a little called out, but I am happy with that because I already know that. I'm already aware. So this is nothing new, and definitely something that I've been working on for sure is, talking less and listening more. And I feel like, we've all heard the saying that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. We should be listening twice as much as we talk. And that's not just a cute little saying. That's a great thing to live by. And I feel like just from my family members, and I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but because of, how I grew up and family members and all that we were loud people, and we have the tendency to talk over and interrupt each other all the time. So seeing that growing up, that's what happened. That's what I did. That's just how I thought you were supposed to communicate. And I didn't notice how bad that was until I got into a relationship with Matt and we started doing a lot of personal growth. And that was pointed out to me. I wasn't really aware of how, the extent that it was. And now when I do it, I can catch myself. And I think the thing is, if you are like that, if you're like me in that, and you just want to respond so bad that you end up talking over somebody when they haven't even finished their sentence yet, that comes off very rude. That comes off that you haven't listen to them at all, when maybe you have, but you're communicating that you didn't listen to them. But don't beat yourself up over that if that's you, because I feel like that isn't going to help the situation. That's not going to help you grow to get better. That's not going to, help anything. That give yourself grace. It is one step at a time. There's no way that I just overcame what I've overcome so far overnight. It doesn't work that way. And I've had to take the time to really think about it and to catch myself when other people are talking or wanting to say something, and that it's okay that I don't have to respond immediately, and especially, interrupting somebody. And I still do it. Like, it still happens. It's not perfect. And when it does happen, I'm like in my head, like, dang it, man, I didn't mean to do that. And I feel rude, and I don't want somebody to think I was being rude, especially if it's, a quick conversation with somebody that I may or may not be ever seeing again or whatever. Or very often that, I don't want that to be their impression of me. I do think it's important, that you give yourself grace in that process if you are somebody who tends to interrupt like I do. Because at the end of the day, like, people don't want to be interrupted. Like, think about it. Do you like to be interrupted? Do you like it when people don't listen to you and you just feel like what you're saying isn't being heard? I'm sure none of you feel that way. And I've never met anybody that enjoys that. So when you think about it from that perspective, I think it's very helpful to be able to change it in yourself and think about, well, how would I want to be treated? If somebody was doing that to me, I wouldn't really like that. So maybe I should think before I speak next time, and maybe take the time and not interrupt somebody. Let them finish what they're saying. I feel like even just doing this podcast with Matt has helped me grow a ton in that area. Because I know the first couple episodes that we recorded, I was like cringing And I think one time I was actually crying because I was just so upset with how much I interrupted him. And I didn't realize like how bad it was until we listened to the playback. And I was just afterwards, I was like, I'm so sorry. Like I did not mean to do that. I don't like how it came out. I promise to be better in the future because that's not who I want to be. That's not, the kind of example that I want to set. And I think that's important to really look at it that way and to not use shame and guilt, because I feel like those are things that they might work temporarily, but I feel like the damaging, lasting effects that they have is not worth it. But just to be patient with yourself and to give yourself grace in that process.
The biggest thing is that, you have to have that grace with everybody. And just so we know, and so it's clarified here, I did not mean to call her out. That was just one thing that is the truth, though. It's her skill. It's her skill set. It's what she's talented at. I mean, it's what is her natural gifting is input. I mean, that's just what it is. At the end of the day, though, and I think that to go back to what you were talking about when we were talking about the podcast is I could tell after you had that epiphany with yourself and that self-realization that even after that, I could tell that you were working through just talking and making sure that you didn't talk over. I can tell almost like your body language of when you wanted to respond to certain things, you didn't. I could tell. And I could tell that that's what you wanted to do. You wanted to have that input. You wanted to have that conversation and you didn't. And that was a part of a growing phase for you. And now you don't do that. I think it helps that, we've kind of moved our room around a little bit and we face each other. So I can even tell more of your little natural want to responds now that are not responded to. But the thing is that we're all growing, we're all changing, we're all going through different phases of life. And we're all trying to grow every day and change every day. And I think that all starts and is all based on communication, because it's the most basic need for anybody is to feel heard and understood. And the best way to understand them is to listen to them. I feel like if we can really communicate that every single day to people, we're going to make a positive impact on everybody we come in contact with. And that is one of my goals every day, is to have a positive impact on somebody. I don't care if it's on the janitor. I don't care if it's on the person at McDonald's. I don't care if it's at the person at the gas station. I do not care who it's on, as long as I know that after one day, I impacted one person, that's enough for me. And it doesn't mean that I don't want to impact more people, and it doesn't mean that I don't impact more people than one. But that is one of my goals every day, and I write it down every single day that I want to impact people positively. It doesn't matter how many, it doesn't matter how little. I think that that's the most basic thing, that if you go through life and you are actively listening to people, you will have a positive impact on somebody every single day, because you may be the only person that fully understood them that day. And that's very sad, but it's very true. And then it may just be one little thing that you did, and it could change their life forever. If they feel heard and understood by you, it could change how they impact somebody else that day as well.
A lot of times we don't think that a small thing on our part can make that much of a difference, and it really can. And I would go to say that you might be the person for somebody, if you listen to them, you actually listen to them, that it could be the only person they've had do that in a very long time, maybe not just that day, that people are craving to be heard and understood. And I feel like, relationships thrive when there's effective communication. And part of that is the act of listening. And I feel like that's the more important part than just speaking, whatever you're thinking and feeling. And the funny thing is, last night we actually watched Letters to Julia. I don't know if you guys have seen that movie. I would highly recommend it. It is a lovey-dovey movie, but it's really good. And perfect example of what we're talking about, because the lead lady in it and her fiance are supposedly communicating. She's trying to tell him about her day, and he is not listening at all. He's you could tell he's thinking about whatever he's wanting to say. He's thinking about his own experience he had that day, because they did different things. And he's really just trying to figure out, what he wants to say back to her. And he interrupts her, totally doesn't listen to anything she says, and just talks about what his day was or what he's going to do and what he's excited about. Totally cuts her off. And it's almost painful to watch because you're like, oh my gosh, stop. Stop interrupting her. You're ruining your relationship. But until you can actually recognize that, maybe you wouldn't even think twice about it. And it's kind of funny how movies can show us stuff like that maybe we don't put that with real life. No, this happens all the time. And maybe it's happened to you, or maybe you've done it. And it was just a really good reminder again of, I feel like it showed me how much I've grown in it. Wow, I used to do stuff like that. I used to be like that. And not that it doesn't still happen, because it does, but I'm definitely way more aware. And I feel like awareness is definitely a key too, in being aware, of where you are at in your growth journey. And I think that, when people are communicating to us, that what are you actually hearing what they're saying? Do you actually understand what it is that they are trying to communicate? Because I feel like a lot of times we have biased thinking, and we'll try to bend whatever somebody else is saying to whatever our want is, or our story, or whatever we're trying to fit, that we're going to bend what they say to fit that, when that might not be the truth. They might not be on the same page with you, or they might have a different idea, and you've got biased thinking because that's kind of the lens that you're looking from. And I think it's important to have unbiased thinking and to kind of take yourself out of it, because your experience is not their experience. I think that's something huge that we don't take into account. When somebody thinks or feels something, we're seeing it through our life and our perspective. And we might think, oh, that's crazy, or, oh, why would you do that? Or why would you think that? But we're coming from our perspective, and that's not their perspective. That's not somebody else's experience in life. So I think it's very important to have unbiased thinking and unbiased listening when you are listening to somebody else, so that you're not changing what they're actually saying to fit whatever it is, that's in your head at the time.
Confirmation bias is that's a whole nother episode in itself. So I'm not going to get into that. But I think that the biggest thing that we all need to take away from this is that, it's hard to listen when you're talking, and it's hard to really be communicating if you're already thinking of a response, because you're not listening to anything at that point. When you're listening just to respond, then you're not listening, because at the end of the day, you miss the most important thing. And I know that for me, this has been a very challenging subject, not just for business, but for my life and my communication styles. I know that now I even I kind of go over the top, and I think sometimes it irritates Ashley a little bit, because I repeat back to her certain things that I'm like, okay, just so I'm understanding you correctly, is this what you meant? And sometimes she's like, it's what I meant. And that's okay. And I get the response, especially if it's in a heated discussion. And I know that there is, sometimes that it does irritate her, but I want to just fully make sure that I understood her correctly, and she feels heard and understood, because if she doesn't feel heard and understood, she's not going to receive what I said anyways, regardless, because if she doesn't think that I'm listening, then it's not going to go anywhere anyways. So I'd rather her be a little more on the opposite side of knowing that I did fully understand her and I fully heard her. Because I think that sometimes even, I know that this has happened for me, and I know that's happened for Ash as well, is that we will be thinking something and think that we said it when we didn't say it. And when you go into that realm, that's a whole nother ballgame, because now you're mad about something you didn't even tell them at all. There's nothing that is going on. You're like, you never said that. Oh, I know I said that. No, you didn't. I know you didn't. and that's okay. But at the same time, like, we need to make sure that that doesn't happen too, because now we're just operating out of another realm. And I'll let kind of Ash speak that a little bit, because I know that that's happened on both sides of the fence with us as well, is that make sure that you are saying what you think you said as well.
I'm over here laughing because I've done that so many times. I don't know if you guys have done that, but I know that I've thought things that I feel like sometimes I am maybe too efficient and on the go. And I think, okay, I did this, this, and this. I'm like checking off things in my head. And then I think that I told, whether it was Matt or somebody else, I think I already communicated to someone. It's like I sent them a text in my head or a message or whatever. And then when I get to that person, I'm like, yeah, so what about blah, blah, blah. And they're like, you never said anything about that. I'm like, yes, I did. And a lot of times, no, I didn't say anything. And that's definitely happened with Matt and I, that we thought we've communicated something. And I'm like, no, like, honestly, I'm not trying to make you sound crazy. Like, you really have never told me this. So maybe you thought you did, you didn't, but, and vice versa. I think that that's also important. I don't know if you guys have experienced that, but that has definitely happened to us. And something that we want to make sure doesn't happen as often as it does, because the miscommunication can also create issues that didn't have to be there to begin with if you had just actually communicated what you were thinking. So I think it's important, to take the time and make sure you're actually communicating to people. I've got ways here, to become a better active listener. And to begin, stop talking. Just let the other person finish what they're saying. So stop talking. Let the other person finish before you respond. Think about what they said before you say anything, or you can repeat back what they said to show that you understand it, and not in any kind of teasing or facetious way, but really stating, so I want to make sure we're on the same page. You said this, this, and this. Is that right? Verify it with them, because I think that's important, that we can think we understand what they said, but maybe it's not. Like I had talked before about perspective. So I do think it's important to clarify with the person if there is any question of what they, were trying to communicate to you. I think those 4 simple things will help you become a better active listener. And like us, it's still a work in progress for sure. And some books I would recommend that have been very helpful, that we've read multiple times, is Everybody Communicates, Few Connect by John Maxwell. Crucial Conversations. It's by the Vital Smarts group. There's a bunch of different authors in it, but if you look up Crucial Conversations, Vital Smarts, you'll get it. And How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And I'll put all these in the show notes so you guys can check it out. But I would highly recommend those 3 books in terms of communication and listening. I think that they've helped us a ton, and that there's a lot in there that can help you out as well. And in closing, thank you guys for listening. We appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for your rating and reviewing of us. Please subscribe. Please share this message with somebody else that you think may need to know a little bit more about active listening, which I think we all do. And until next time, own your life, because your life is your responsibility. Thank you all for listening. If this added value to you, please click subscribe and rate and review us. You can also find us at Own Your Life Co. on Instagram and Facebook, and ownyourlifeco.com. And as always, own your life, because your life is your responsibility.